It's in Route 66, Edwardsville, where my aunt and uncle lived. So I got into viewing that, and I also, during my travels around the Midwest, from here to Fort Wayne to Nashville, I saw all these barns with like chew mail pouch tobacco. You've probably seen those. Well, this guy, chew mail pouch tobacco guy, he is Harley Warwick, who started painting these things right after World War II in '46. And Mail Pouch paid him to repaint barns, and it was like free advertising for these people, so they had a good connection. But he painted like 5,000 of these, and he repainted many of them. So over like 22 states, he was. So I did a lot of paintings of Mail Pouch tobacco, and then Sea Rock City. Every time I'd go down to my sisters in Nashville, I'd see all these Sea Rock City barns. We have one that's kind of official, unofficial in Antioch on Route 83. But we have a couple downstate that I always see. And in Kentucky and Tennessee, which is like the hub, there's like 400 or 500. And this guy, Clark Byers, painted this one, and I'm going to demo today. And I have a little picture of it here from a photo I took. I've been past there. It's in Bryson, North Carolina. And if you're familiar with Brevard area, that's where my wife's mom and dad used to live. We used to see a couple barns around there. And then when I went to my niece's wedding in Nashville back in 2009, I made a special trip to see and photograph as many of these Rock City barns as I. And some of them are hard to get to and find. You know, the maps, there's not really, even Google's not going to tell you where they're at. But I end up photographing over 20, and I've painted like 5 or 6. And I painted this guy a couple times.
Can you put that under the camera?
Let's see. That's
good.
kind of what I'm going to, I submitted this into our little Lake Zurich thing. The small painting, it's going to be on display there. And it's just a small painting. And then this is my source. Not sure how focused that is. But it's in Bryson, North Carolina. And it has, see 7 states from Rock City. And this guy, Clark Bowers, got hired by the owner of Rock City and Ruby Falls, which is right on the Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina border up in the hills. And it's kind of a little tourist trap, but in and around there you'll see all these barns. So I figured some of them are nice, and I painted this one last year. I don't know if you can see this, but there's a lot of color in this one. It's one of the barns. It's in Morristown, Tennessee. So I'll be using this as a guide, and then my previous painting as a guide. I'll make it look just like it, except totally different. So, a lot of my lighthouses and stuff, I paint 4 or 5 times. Cana Island, I think I painted maybe a dozen times, but everyone's different. Kind of different point of view. And so I do a lot of the same subject many times. Try to make them a little different each time. So, things I use, John Pike palette, the old trusty nifty. I've been through a couple of these over the years. I used to have way too many colors. I still have way too many colors on this guy. But I try to maybe no more than 5 colors per painting is my goal. I have like 14 on here, and some of these I never use. And I've got one little opaque thing. It's a little pearl, pink pearl that's kind of opaque. I may use that for a highlight, but I rarely use it. The opaque. Most of them I try to keep transparent, non-staining. I do have a couple staining colors. Grumbacher Phthalo, which is similar to Holbein's Peacock Blue. It's really juice color. It's a really brilliant color, but I kind of stay away from that because once you put it down, you can't lift it. It's really staining. And a lot of my other colors are Opera, which is a mainstay. Holbein Yellow Orange. It's a brilliant color. I like that. Winsor Newton Umber, Winsor Newton burnt sienna, Winsor Newton manganese blues, which I'll use a lot of today. Sparingly, Winsor Newton Payne's gray, and then Holbein, like I said, peacock blue. What other ones here? Aurelian yellow, and I do have some. You can see on my palette, there's like 2 or 3 yellows here, from Rembrandt to Grumbacher to Holbein. So I use a lot of various yellows. I try not to use green, but there's a permanent sap green from Winsor Newton that I kind of use, and I'll probably combine it with a yellow or a blue, depending on how greenish or bluish I want to make my greens. So that, Arches 140-pound cold press. Use that for everything pretty much, except for the larger pieces. I use 300-pound Arches cold press. I've used Fabriano Aristico for 300-pound. I've got some of my large haunted scenes were painted on those. And I've got one at home I'm doing now too. It's on that. As far as influences, when I went to college, Howard Sidman, who's one of my instructors, favorite artist instructor at school, subjected me. He was mostly a figure drawing guy in pencil and charcoal and then ink. And he got me into the various ways to do oil paintings. And that's pretty much what I did in college. I didn't do watercolor, just a little bit. And I didn't get introduced to watercolor until probably late 70s at Mathon's restaurant. And there was a guy out in the lawn named Phil Austin who would paint. In fact, there's 40, inside Mathon's restaurant, there'd be like 40 paintings of watercolor from Lake County, beautiful works. And Phil Austin, they're all by Phil Austin. So he would be demonstrating outside, and he would allow people to take pieces of paper and try to copy or try to demo. So that was kind of my first real look at a watercolor artist. And I go, I guess he did it like once a month, so I did like 2 visits down there for like a couple hours. I'm like, this is some really nice stuff. So I started doing a little bit of watercolor then, and then in like 93, 94, there was an art action. They don't have those anymore. They'd have different spots. They would hold all these artists and workshops in one place. And they had one in Chicago back maybe 2001, 2002. But in 94, they had one in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I went down there I signed up for a workshop by this guy named Buck, who did all these ocean waves and landscape and oil. But while I was there, I signed up for a workshop by Susan Shiwi in watercolor. And judging by the way she did a quick painting, I thought, watercolor, maybe I'll go back to this. So from like 94 on, I've been like split between watercolor and oil. And Susan Shiwi did a lot of TV stuff on PBS, I think before Tom Lynch did his series and stuff. So if you go on YouTube, Susan Shiwi, SCHWEEWE, or SCHEEWE, Susan Shiwi. She has a lot of YouTube stuff. I mean, she has acrylics and other things, but I just look at her watercolors and think, these are good stuff. So that's kind of my influences from it. And I did a couple workshops with Nita Engel up in Lac de Flambeau, and she used to stretch and tape and staple her work to plywood. And so during her workshops, she would do that. But I tried to influence her, saying, this is what I'm doing. It's not, because the last time she did a workshop there, I forget what year it was, but she was having trouble holding and pouring this stuff, and I was holding it for her, but I tried to talk her into doing this. It's a gator board, 1/2 inch on craft. I like the craft. It's a little stiffer and doesn't bow. Some of the white 1/2 inch will bow on you. But I do soak my paper 6 to 8 minutes in a bath, room temperature water if I can find it, and then lay it down and then wipe the bubbles out, let it dry, and then staple it. I staple it to there and then tape the outside a little bit. And what ripples and stuff I have when it gets wet will disappear when it's dry. So I don't wet the back or anything like a lot of artists, but this is what I found. Just once you get it that way, it's kind of stays that way. And it works for 300-pound paper. I don't stretch, but my 140 I do. Any questions so far? Anyone? Bueller? So I was going to start this guy, and then for masking fluid, over the years I've done several different masks I've tried. A lot of people don't use masking fluid. I found that the media is difficult the way it is. Why not get the aid of saving your whites a little bit with some masking? So I tried the pink mask, the yellow mask, the Winsor Newton mask, and some of those leave the paper yellow or pink. And I found this stuff. This is PBO drawing gum. I don't know how many people are aware of that, but I can do my signature I can draw it, my signature in PBO, and the small flowers and dots. A lot of these flowers I just flick, dip it in with some of these little nylon brushes, little bright whites from Blick. You buy a set for like a 10 for like maybe $15. And I just dip it in that, just flick it. And it gives me my PBO, let it dry, and you can paint over it. And then Bob's your uncle. You got a thing. So with that, I was gonna start this guy. And before I start, I was gonna wet a little bit of the colors. Really think and kind of activate them a little bit. And rose from Holbein is one of the colors I'll use. And yellow. And the burnt umbers get brittle no matter what flavor I find. Either Winsor Newton or Holbein, so I know they get a little brittle, so I kind of so there's a magnesium blue from Winsor Newton. I really like that. Holbein is similar. I've tried Trader Joe's and some others. Some of them are a little too greeny or grainy, or some of them are gray and they don't give you a brilliant blue. But old-fashioned Winsor Newton does pretty good there. Yeah, so this barn is in Bryson, Tennessee, in the hills. I'm not sure how. I know Brevard and areas northwest of Nashville got pummeled by Hurricane Helene, or whatever it is. They pummeled that area pretty good, so I'm not sure if this guy's still there, but that's where it's at, and I've painted it a few times. So I'm gonna wet this guy. So if you have any questions, you can just shout out. I'm going to wet the top of this guy. Hopefully I'm not too much in this. With my big
Shine on this one?
shine, my top of my head will shine. So I'm just kind of doing, this is my Lowell Cornell 1-inch synthetic. All my brushes are the synthetic icky kind, but they kind of work. So we got, try to draw around the little area, and then manganese blue, a little more manganese blue, a little more manganese blue, trying to get enough to really do what I want to and won't run belly up here. And I got my little gizmo, gives me about a 2.5-inch, 3-inch elevation, so I'm tilted a little bit. I try to paint on a little bit of a tilt there. So we get the darkest part of the sky be on top. I'll leave a little white for clouds. Some sharp edges, bottom. I want to get lighter toward the horizon here, so I'll have a little bit more water toward the horizon. And then while that's drying, we'll come in and add a little bit of color to that as we go. Try not to get any blossoms. I'm trying not to go over it too much here. A couple areas, I think I did go over it a little much. A couple little open areas. Okay, and then for the barn itself, I'll look at it and it's pretty much really deep brown. I'll try not to make it as deep a brown. I'll try to add maybe a little bit of that blue in there. And since I have masking, I could paint really right over that. So it's a little burnt umber, a little burnt sienna. There's a little bit of gray in there too. And I did buy the hair dryer, little craft heating tool that David recommended, but I forgot it. But during the last month, I don't think I've used it. Not for painting, I used it for other things.
Your hair looks nice.
Oh, thanks. But I didn't use it on my paint. I'm trying to figure what I used it for. I was trying to try something. So we got a little burnt umber, raw sienna, and just a touch of pain gray going on here.
Do you usually stand while you paint?
I usually start out until I get picky with the close-up stuff, and then I sit down. Unless my back is kind of thing.
Yeah.
I have a back
I'm
thing.
just watching you and I'm like, oh.
Oh, don't reach too much because
No.
I did that just a week ago. Kind of went too far out, and I felt it for a while. So light to dark is my gizmo, but since I got the masking down on this, I was gonna go to my second brush and remove some of the paint here because one of the photos I took showed this barn kind of the complete thing. So one of the paintings I did. And this last photo here, my photo now, you can see that you really can't see the bottom of the barn. Sure, you can see there. The bottom of the barn is all the grass is grown up. Let there be light, that helps. Okay, just gives you the basic feel of that. And then for the I've got the burnt sienna, burnt umber, raw sienna thing going here. I was going to dilute that a little bit and then get our path going. I painted this 2 or 3 times with different successes and different colors on this path.
Did you mask the people?
Yes, I got my 2 guys, and this one they're like going fishing. I'm thinking it's a brother and his sister. They have little fishing poles you can barely see, but they're going fishing. And the one I'm doing now is I got them coming back from fishing.
Years later, they got bigger.
Yeah, my guy's too big and my girl's too small.
What did they catch?
I'm not sure. I don't have. I got a bucket and maybe 2 buckets. She's kind of holding a bucket, but I may figure out some way to do it. But I did do. Well, as I was drawing him, because it's easier to draw the backs than the fronts. Because the fronts you have to pretend to do a face. So I kind of did my little, instead of value sketch, did a little value painting of what they could like. And they were a good size here, but my girl shrunk and he's a teenager now. I didn't want him to progress that. He didn't want him to get old, but somehow he matured. I'm putting a little warmth in my path here. I think I'll just paint through him. Paint through this area. Let the mask do its thing here. Keep it lighter in the distance, or maybe darker as I go forward. Since I got a big piece of path here.
How long does it take you to sketch it on the board and do the masking and so on?
Yeah, that's the for a lot of my works, like for the Chicago Celebrates, there's a thing I do with masking that's I draw it and then I redraw it and then I draw it like 3 or 4 times just to get it to where I can start masking. And then with that one, I mask and go light to dark, and then I get to a certain stage and I remove the mask to reveal some of the lights, and then I actually remask. It's just goofy. I'm masking over some of the stuff that has light color, but to preserve that lighter color, I again mask. So I did that 3 or 4 times to get the fireworks. The fireworks didn't turn out as well as some of my other stuff, but it kind of gives you the effect. But yeah, so there's multiple masking going on, and I did a.
So do you mask on top of your pencil, right? And then did you mask on top of that?
Yeah, I mask right over the pencil, and then on some of these, I mask after I remove some of the mask to show the light areas. I mask again on some of these things.
So when you remove the mask, you're removing the pencil?
I'm removing most of the pencil, and then actually I'll do a little Emerald Lagasse time. This thing's been in the oven, as Emerald would say. So he'll take it out of the oven. And this is the other Sea Rock City barn. This one's in Sweetwater, Tennessee, and this was the first one that this guy Clark Byers painted in Sweetwater, Tennessee. It's between on Route 11, which is not 75 is the main highway between Knoxville and Chattanooga, but going east of there is Route 11, and there's like 7 or 8 Sea Rock City barns. This is the first one he painted. I painted this a couple times, and then I painted this, but I actually masked out, and then I painted over it in some of these spots, and then I masked again over that. Maybe I'll show you what that looks like here. This is dry and stuff, but.
Jim, do you find you lose a lot of the color that, like your paint, your first layer, and then you mask over it?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you remove your mask, when I've done it, some of that color comes comes up. So
Yeah, just a little bit of that color will come out. It depends on what color. If you're using like the yellows and the cads or something, they're more permanent. Not much will come up, but some of them will. And then what I did here, because I actually painted the top here. Bring your camera, Roxy. I painted that real light. I think it was a little bit of rose and a little bit of magnesium blue. Not much. It's not quite white though, but it's off white. When I remove this on this one, this will be white. But on this one, and then the different styles of masking pickup, and some of these things I used to get called mask pickup from Cheap Joe's. After a year, it's like a brick. Can't do anything. I found these off of Amazon, and they call them crepe something. There's like a little 10-pack and a little pouch, but this one's like 2 years old and it's still viable. So I'm gonna, if you can see this, I'm gonna take some of them. And then, like you were just saying, that some of the colors coming off, because this had a little blue and a little magenta. It was a real light purple, but it looks mostly white now. So some of that paint is coming off. And then down here, I actually painted over some of these flowers with mask, and some of mostly the grasses. And I just remember that some of these grasses I painted so light that when I went over it in masking fluid, it may not show up with color. So yeah, yes, go ahead.
How do you keep your masking fluid from just clumping and drying up in the bottle?
Yeah, which tricks with this? Don't let this sit out in the sunlight for about 85 degrees. Don't put it in the refrigerator or freezer, and don't do this.
Don't shake.
Don't shake, because it's a latex. It's just like a rubber glove you put over your hand on the. But if you shake it, it's kind of ruined. So I just
Careful.
nice and gentle get it to going, and then I pour it in a little cap. And then I use the little nylon brushes. And some of these nylon brushes are unusable. Like this I'm used about 10 times, but I put them in Goo Gone. Like a little 1/2-inch jar of Goo Gone. Yeah, Goo. It's like removing labels and stuff. Just dip it in Goo Gone and let it sit there overnight. And then pull it out, see what, it'll expand. And then it'll come out a little bit, and then I put it back in again. And then after a while, you can wash it off and stuff and reuse it. Yeah, but like a lot of my color, especially on the flowers and the grasses, after I remask, either they're not showing up or I forgot to. Yeah, they're not showing up. Well, some of them are. But yeah, some of the paint is coming off. It's lightening up, which is fine. So with this, we got the Sea-Rock City Barn, and I drew, this is the second time I've done this exact, or similar to this exact painting. Because I did it a couple times with no people, no fishermen. I had a couple girls doing butterfly chasing with this. And I got the idea from my granddaughter and her friend in the fall trying to catch butterflies. But so I did that, and so like this was painting. It was a real light, almost like a lavender. But after putting the mask on, it disappeared. But some of these, I don't know if I have another painting to show you, but the masking and stuff would actually show different shades of green grass. Some that have no masking and some that have prior masking.
Does that change the texture after you wipe that off? Does it change the texture of the paper?
I've never noticed that. It's still workable. Even got my signature down here. Yeah, but if you rub real hard, like I say, when I do this, I know a lot of the pencil marks. You're taking the mask off, but you're also taking any pencil. So like my details where I drew around the girls here with their, like one of them had like a little polka dot dress, and I drew it, all the little dots and stuff are gone. So yeah, because you're rubbing hard enough to get the PBO off, but you're also taking away the pencil marks, which in some cases is good. That's this guy. Yeah, so next step with this, I'll probably add more color into the words and stuff, Rock City, put a little color in my butterflies. The girls with the nets, there's one of these little brushes, I take just a normal brush that I don't like, and it's not really a watercolor brush, and I trimmed it down to like 1/8 of an inch. And to remove some color, I should try the other way first. Like where their butterfly nets are, I'll try just wetting it. And I'll try just lifting a little bit of color to give the impression of a butterfly net. I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's a butterfly right in this net, or just outside the net here.
So you trimmed that brush down so you could have a small line for wetting, is that?
So yes, a long line for wetting, and it becomes like a scuff brush, where I can like scuff up the paint a little bit, and then I can remove a little more color that way. So this just has, it makes it stiff where I can kind of, I'm not sure if you can see that, but it kind of gives the impression of a butterfly net there where color's been removed. I may do it after it dries, I may do it one more time there. So that's, yeah, it didn't like work out where I wanted to. Some of these little grasses you can see where it was masked over after the fact, but a lot of my original masking work is there. So I'll give you that. So back to our original program.
Okay.
So then for my field here, I have a large mass, and in my original, there's a lot of green here, and I don't want that much green. So I'm going to break it up with a little blue and maybe some other colors here. So I don't want that quite that much. I mean, it's okay to have green, but I don't want to have that much green. So I'll start out with what areas I want to be like light, and it'll be green with a little bit of brilliant yellow. That's kind of a sharp edge here that I don't want. And down here, I'll put a little bit of the color from the sky, a little manganese blue in this to give it a darker piece. And there may be a shadow of a tree in there too that we'll work with.
That looks like a not watercolor brush, Jim, is it?
Yeah, well, it is a watercolor
Oh,
brush.
it is.
It's Lowell Cornell, but it's the biggest one I got, so I'm trying to do the Tony Couch thing of using the biggest brush you got. And as I get down lower here. I'll put a little mess of blue and a mess of green. And we've got a little cobalt blue too, maybe give it a little, just to give it a little darken effect here. Like I say, this area has a lot of green to it. I just don't want to have it that much. And have it all be green. So I'll bust it up a little bit here. Although it looks like there's a lot of green still, so I may, with my shadows and stuff, I may get toward the bottom here, a little burnt sienna, maybe a little touch of red here, maybe a little opera, to give it a little effect that it's not going to be a green thing. I kind of like what that did. And while I'm thinking about this opera, I may do something with the sky here too. Clean this mess up a little bit here. So with my sky, I put maybe just a little bit of cobalt blue and a little bit of rose, and maybe get me a light purple just to put in some touches of things in that sky. There we go. I want it to be more blue than red. Yeah, looks like pretty good. I'm gonna try to do just a little bit.
Is that sky still pretty damp or is it almost dry?
Well, it's not quite dry, but close enough. So I'm adding in some little purple clouds, just a little bit here. And it's not a wet thing that I'm adding. It's kind of a semi-wet dry. It's kind of dry. It's on the dry side. Just to get a little color in there. Give the sky just a little more interest. And when this dries, this darker purple blue will lighten up a piece to where you can kind of see what I did in this one. That's kind of a little bit of what I want to capture.
Jim, do you do art shows? Do you go to art shows? I know you've exhibited at Antioch Fine Arts a number of times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the art shows are what I mainly do. That's where I sell my stuff. First one was in like 77 in Long Grove. And then I did Adler the first year. I did 81. No, 81? No. Was it 81? 91. 81? Must have been. I losing track.
40 years ago.
40 years ago, yeah. The first one was 81. So I did the first 3 years at Adler. Outdoor art shows. Didn't have a tent. all I had were these little pegboard things, and it was just oil paintings out in the sun, getting burnt to a crisp. But then after that, I started doing more and more, and then like 7 or 8 years later, I bought a tent, and then started doing more and more art shows. Here, Michigan, farthest one away was in the Nashville area, Springfield, Lincoln. Used to do a lot of hot air balloon paintings. So Lincoln had their hot air balloon art and festival last weekend in August, and they had like 50 hot air balloons go up. And I did a mess of paintings. I think I sold them all the first year. So I did more the second year. I ended up selling them all. Just hot air balloons from my photographs that I took and stuff. But yeah, so I've done I think I've done up to 18 shows in a year. And I've dialed back. In 2012, I signed up for 12 shows, and there were 0. So I did no shows. And in 2021, they came back, and I did really well at the art shows. I do. You figure at some of these art shows, you'll have 20, 30,000 people. You know, Gold Coast Art Fair, and Lake Forest has like 12 or sometimes 15,000 if the weather's good. And I sell, my stuff sells, you know, I try to sell. Last year I did 8 or 9 because of bad knees. This year I'm signing up for just 6. We'll see how it goes. Doing less than this. But it's a lot of work, outdoor art shows. And climate change is big time. From 20 years ago, if you're an outdoor artist, you'll notice that 20 years ago, if you had winds, you had gentle winds. If you had rain, gentle rain, it's not like that anymore. Everything's violent, you know, 30-mile-an-hour winds and stuff. So outdoors is a challenge.
Where do you get your prints made?
O.C.O. Brown down in Elmhurst does my Giclée reproductions. These are on 130-pound watercolor paper. He scans the image, and it's like 75 or 85 to scan the image, and then he prints these on watercolor. This is actually smaller than the original size, but it looks just like the original.
Yeah.
And it'll weather better than the original, because some of my originals, you see them fade just a little bit over time. This,
They don't put them on the backing like that.
no, that's something I do with when I use the little heavier duty foam core. I don't use the Dollar Tree or some of these things that have little ripples and stuff in them, and they're super lightweight. So it's 3/16 inch, and then I put the little things on it. Put like where this was taken from a mansion, and everything. All the information and stuff is in the back. So yeah, O.C.O. Brown in Elmhurst, just 2 miles south of Elmhurst College. They do a great job. And you can mention my name if you want to. May help you.
Okay.
But I only get like 1 or 2 reproductions a year. But I've been doing it for a while. So the next step, I think we've got a background here. And I was going to add some color in the distance here. Little hills. Not make it too lighter in the distance is what they say.
Jim, we can take a break whenever it works for you,
Okay.
for drying or whatever purpose.
Yeah, I'll get another couple minutes here and then we can.
Okay, you say we're.
Okay. Yeah, just trying to get here, and I may put a tree on this other side too. With this one, I got maybe too many trees. It's kind of a lot, so I was going to do less. Maybe call it less is more. With this one, so I'll just get the background scaped a little bit here, landscaped, and then we can take a break. It's a nice quiet group. I've been here when it's been louder. Sometimes if I'm doing, I haven't done watercolor classes since the pandemic, but I would do some of these and people would fall asleep. They said said they're relaxing. I was relaxing them. Kind of get the background and the foreground kind of married together here. There's a little shadow from the barn itself. And then I put a little shadow going across the these guys are going to have shadows. I may touch them a couple times just to see what that's going to be like. Maybe get the, like my green here is still going to be a problem. I've got a lot of greenish type things.
Bingo.
Am I live? Can you hear me?
I can.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, one of the things I forgot to mention is I use a mechanical pencil,
Okay.
and it's like 0.05 millimeter, like your basic mechanical pencil. And I use it for all my drawings because it's a fine line, and when I usually sketch, I sketch real light.
So it doesn't smear.
So it doesn't smear, there's not a lot of graphite.
Yeah.
And then, like even after before I started this, I actually took my kneaded eraser and kind of rubbed a little bit to
Yeah.
get some of the graphite off. But I used the mechanical pencil because it's precise. And like I say, some people were asking me how I get the letters exact, but they're not really exact. There's not a straight line in any of them. It's just drawing, and then I rub a little bit off to correct that, and then you draw it and try to get it. So it takes a few steps to get in. So
I asked, but you never said, how many hours do you think in preparation for, 6 hours, 10 hours, get ready to paint or whatever?
yeah, on some of these, like the skylines, the fireworks, I drew that for about a week on and off. Because I redrew and tried to correct it, get the fireworks right, and Navy Pier. Actually, it's, as a Coast Guard thing, they gave me a spot on the Chicago Harbor Lighthouse. And I sat there, and then they were going to hang by, because the waters were calm, hang by, and I was going to take pictures of the sunset. Well, it's Navy Pier, I didn't realize. Wait another half hour, you have fireworks. I took pictures of that, too. So I painted that 3 times before I got to that stage. And then now the skyline has all changed and stuff too.
So it's just like painting a kitchen. The preparation is more work than the painting.
Right, for this, I drew this and drew it, so I put maybe a good hour plus in drawing and maybe another 45 minutes putting PBO down where I wanted it to go. Because I'm drawing with PBO, with flowers and stuff. I'm not really drawing with a pencil. But then, yeah, so it's a good prep. And then, like I said, I probably sketch for 4 or 5 days and then PBO for another couple of days on and off trying to get, because I'm not going to splash a bunch of PBO at little windows and pieces of fireworks, so it took a while. But then after you did it, the first washes, within an hour you got the background, you got the sunset within like a half hour, so you got the whole initial wash in probably an hour and a half. And then when it dries, you do a second wash, you get it darkened in the third wash, and then you start taking layers of PBO off. So it takes a while.
You charge by the hour.
Yeah, I think it was like $2.70. But if I'm doing a skyline or like that Marshall Fields thing, it's about 90 cents an hour. There's a lot of rework and sketching and stuff you have to do. And those little dots, the snow, it's actually snow in there. And what I did with the PBO is you dip it in PBO and just flick it.
Yeah.
And it gives you all these snowflakes. And you just flick. Then after a while, you need more than a couple thousand. You need 5,000. And then if you get, after it's dry, you go in, if you see the big blobs, you know, that you don't want them, you just pick it off with the crepe and stuff to get
Oh.
and then you can paint right over it, you know, save your wax that way.
How about salt? Do salt.
I've done salt on just this last year with a snow scene with cardinals and stuff put down. I don't use table salt, I use the coarse. Heavier salt gives you the better effect. It soaks up bigger hunks. The little ones kind of just makes it grainy, disappears. So I use the coarse salt.
Thanks.
Let's see, so what I was doing, I was going to do background here. With this one tree here, I was going to give it a shadow. I'm trying to figure, I don't want it to land right up against the barn. Put it a distance away from the barn. And then my shadow from it can be like this. So the bottom part of this, I figured, trying to get less green. I figured I'd do a little magenta, a little manganese blue, and a little permanent sap green. 3 colors, it'll be gray. So with that gray, I'll put that gray down as part of the, and so I'll make that dark. Let's see how far I can go up with this without causing problems. So I'm just using the belly of the brush here, trying to cover some of this. So it's a greenish blue, but it's, so again, there's enough variation that'll give me a
Where do you get your masking?
It's from Amazon. Cheap Joe's used to have it real cheap, but they're stingy with it now. For this little thing lately, it's like
I was looking, I
$12.
didn't see it on here.
Yeah, you can call it drawing gum or just say PBO. PBO, you know, list of PBO stuff will come up.
It's
And
not
then,
masking.
no, it's drawing gum. Drawing gum.
Drawing gun, oh.
They have it at Michael's.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. Michael's carries that.
So it's just PBO, like 3 letters?
Yeah. PEBEO.
Oh, P.
What's the difference between that and masking?
There's different types of masking I've used over the years. Winsor Newton used to have their white mask, and it was like a magic mask. But it just took the paper right off, I thought. And they may have changed it now. But there always was a pink magic. If you've ever seen that, I'm not sure if that's even around. But it was pink, and you'd do it, and it was thicker. You couldn't get real fine lines with it. And sure enough, when you took it off, you have a nice little pink
Color.
And there was one, somebody sold it that was like a yellow. Wherever you put it, was like a yellow. I think it's still out there. I'm not sure. Winsor Newton's yellow stuff. But this stuff, I tried it. It's been 20 some years, and I just swear by it. You know. So I'm making my green non-green here, which is what I want to do. Gray's not a bad color. With the three colors. I'm going to try to fill in the best we can here. Get this white stripe out of the way.
Mess with it.
So I can see this green mass is going to be a problem, so I may just sit back and think about it a little bit before I go ahead and screw it up. Meanwhile, I'll do my little hill here. And do a couple little background stuff. Just to give a couple pieces of depth. I want to show like a rolling hill, but I don't want to have too much. Don't want to make it too busy here. Make stuff disappear. I may put in some leaves and stuff in these trees while I'm thinking about it, just to kind of bouncing around here, but just to give you an idea. I did a little cheat sheet. I'm not sure if this will show up on what my trees could be. Kind of little, make one real faint in the distance. Kind of draw some, and then it's like little groups of leaves and stuff in the tree, and then I'll add just a little branches to it after it dries and set, and I'll do the same thing over here. I'll try not to get too complex with it. And then I'll try to make it come together, make it cohesive after things set here, kind of draw, make it to where it works together here. And then the last thing I'll do will be my kids. I may have to, when I remove the mask from the brother, I may want to shrink him somehow. He got him too tall. He grew up too much for my last painting. And for my shadows, I usually kind of add these in last, but I'm just trying to get a feel for so I got the bottom here looking pretty good for darkness. And the top part by the barn I've got looking pretty good. Trying to marry these together will be the problems to solve. problem solving and painting. In my barn, I'll probably add a couple more darker steps to that before I take off the mask. More burnt umber. Give it some shadows here. And there's a lot of little details in this part of the back barn that I put in this, just like little boards and slats that have little highlights and stuff. I'm not sure get too close. Got to do this upside down backwards. You're like a roller
That's
coaster
good.
ride. You can see. And I'll be doing that. Just got to get the background darker, and then when I get back in the studio, I can get real picky with some of this, but I don't want to get too picky here because we'll be here all day. Get the shadow underneath this part of the barn. Be less on this side, just a little. And then where the boards and stuff come together. Like I say, where I try to get these numbers level, like it's like drawing and redrawing. And it looks acceptable. It's not by any means perfect, but so I can darken that up. And then when I remove the PBO from this area right by the barn with all the little grasses, you can see all kinds of, there's like Queen Anne's lace in there that'll pop up. There's all kinds of other flowers in there, yellow, white. Kind of give me an idea. So it says see 7 states from Rock City. You know, if you ever been down there, you can see 7 states from one point, supposedly. It's at the border between, it's actually in the corner of Tennessee, but you can see Georgia and Alabama, no problem. South Carolina, which is kind of in front of you, no problem. North Carolina. Virginia, I'm not so sure about. And they say you can see Florida, but yeah, you got to use your imagination. So we can certainly see 5 states from Lookout Mountain. And they got Ruby Falls there, which is supposed to be a part underground waterfall, part in-ground, but they want you to pay to see it, so I didn't pay. I'm not sure what the price was, but I think I was on a tight schedule too. I had to drive back to Nashville.
Interesting, they ask them to pay for something that's just
Yeah.
natural. Where's the money coming from?
Yeah, it's on their property, so it's like a thing. So Rock City's just a bunch of boulders and stuff into the side of the mountain, and wall. There's little paths you can walk through, and that's kind of it. But they did, how many barns did I say? It was like over 500, and they give him claim to painting over 900, which he painted like maybe half of that, about 450. But he painted some 2 or 3 times. And to paint some of because he painted rooftops too of the barns. And as he was getting older, he hired people to go up and paint the rooftops because some are sloped pretty end. And then, sure, the lettering changed when that happened too. But it turned out to be a thing. Sea Rock City. I recommend it. To say you did it, not just once. So I've got my barn about where I want it. I'm going to try to block in these greens a little bit here. And now I know I put in shadows across the green because it's such a big green area. I wanted to break it up, but I don't want to break it up with 3 shadows. It's a little too much. And this part down here is dried pretty much. It's lightened up quite a bit. But it was my grayish. I kind of liked it. So after it's dry, I'm going to go in again and make it another dose of gray. Let's see how this works here. Give it enough towards. In fact, I'm getting a little too picky. It's going to be busy. So I really give it a good wash. I'll give it a good wash. So I'm doing this to make it fill in a little. Rather than pick it and be like a death by 1,000 stabs. So kill it quickly. So as I'm doing this, like the belly of the brush, I'm doing a lot of, looks like little grass things popping up. Most of them are disappearing as I'm. But I'm making it kind of uneven, which I don't want to. I don't want to be a freshly mowed lawn. So after this dries, then I'll go in and put in little stems and leaves for the weeds and the grasses. It'll be the same thing I'm doing now, but it'll be more coverage. And then when I go in and try to get rid of the green, I'll have a fair chance. I like this light green here, a little sap green. If it needs to be darkened up, probably not by much. I'm hoping to get it to a point where I could take the masking fluid off the top of this thing. I'm pretty close to it here. A little burnt umber here. Where the line of the barn is. Maybe do a line to separate it there. And then when it dries, I'll take off the masking here. Bless you. Okay. So for this crepe stuff, I brought a couple here. You can see it's not perfectly as dark as I want, but I don't want it to get it too dark. That's the background, so. And then I didn't do any underpainting with this.
It's like magic. Looks like a magician just making that all appear all of a sudden.
Yeah. So this is white, so I'll go into this white because I don't want it this white. But like I see when I painted this, you can maybe see it here compared to that white.
Yeah.
But this has a little, like I say, some of the paint did come up, but it's more lavender type, light blue type thing. So with this, if it sets a bit up.
About 15 minutes, how's that work?
That's about perfect.
Yeah, he does have a little sheet.
And then this is still wet, or is it? No, it's about dry. There's my little Queen Anne's lace.
Wow.
We'll call the white flowers. Since we're not big in knowing the flowers. Yellow flowers is yellow. But it kind of gives you the impression. The idea of what we're doing. So that's the big part of it. And I won't be able to get at my guys. My guys and gals, even though they're growing up a lot faster than I want them to. I have to clean this guy off here. We'll try to do.
What are those colors you're mixing there?
Yeah, this is just a touch of sap green. I thought I'd throw in this with magenta. Or not, my rose. Because I want to do this, but I'm trying to pick a really in yellow that would fit that, and I'm getting real close. Really in yellow, rose, and just a touch of Payne's gray, but I can't do too much because it'll really turn dark on me. That's getting pretty good. So I'll do the bottom part of this here path. And I want it to be darker, but maybe not quite that dark. There'll be more gray and dark on the bottom here. And a lot of these Sea Rock City barns are off dirt roads, as I was trying to find a bunch.
So was this the area where tobacco was grown?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's still tobacco in the
I'm not sure about this one, but I do see a lot of tobacco barns from Brevard to Hendersonville to Asheville, and some of them are really nice. You know, from an artist standpoint, you really like them. I like that this is a little brownish tint to that gray, and I kind of wish this was up here, so I may do that too up here.
Any particular reason why you left that part of the path white until the very end? Could that have been part of an earlier light wash?
It should have been. I think I got sidetracked and did something else. I went to another step. It should have been my next step.
I think you were showing your other painting.
Yeah, I think I started in with talking about that.
Curious.
But I like the little brown gray here more than I like the the yucky brown stuff up here. So I'm going to put just a little of that magenta mixture up here. Just hit it there, and then I'll wipe a lot of it away. But if I'm getting a little granular there, I think that's fine. Like when I get around these figures, I want them to be some contrast. And I see there's little white areas I'm leaving there. I think that's like a happy accident type thing. Just give it a little character. And this is going to be lighter than what I originally imagined. Let's see how dark this is here. Like those shadows will be one of the last things I do. I got them down now, but I'll work on them and perfect them a little bit later on. Maybe next month I'll bring this thing completed back into.
Maybe you
To
can
show
take a
you.
photo of it for the newsletter.
There you go. Yeah, I'll send you photos of that and this guy. Yeah, the first one I thought I brought a photo of the first attempt at this guy, and I didn't. I just completed this little Chicago scene.
Nice. Yeah.
The other side of this. Oh, that's the Wrigley thing. But yeah, this one I'll work on that too. So I'll send photos of both of these.
Thank you.
Okay. So it kind of tells you a little bit to start.
Nice.
A little more complex than it should have been.
Wow.
But I think we'll stop there, okay?
Yeah.
Before I ruin it.